Hello everybody! The long-awaited knit tutorial. So this is a beginner knit tutorial for on your way to mastery. So like the crochet tutorial, if you've caught that, hopefully you caught that, and if you didn't, go back and find it and check that out if you're a knitter and want to learn how to crochet. But this is for the crocheters who want to learn how to knit, or for anybody else that wants to learn how to knit even if they don't know how to crochet. So like crochet, knitting starts with a cast on. And I just want to tell you, knitting used to intimidate me so badly, but if you can break it down into literally 4 easy steps, and actually just even 2, knitting only requires knit or purl, and the 4 is the first one, which is to cast on, knit, purl, and cast off, and that's it, right? Once we get those basics down, we're like that step closer to mastery in knitting. So I'm going to cover those in this tutorial. So what you do is, like crochet, you just start off with a slip knot, so that's wrap it around your finger and then pull it up, and there's your slip knot. I think there's a billion ways to start a slip knot. This is just how I do a slip knot. So your tail end is over here. There's many ways to cast on. I'm going to show you this way, which is my favorite way to cast on right now. It's called the knit cast on, and it's very easy. Oh no, yarn vomit. It's happening. It's happening, and always on film too. So that just lets you know that this happens. Okay. And don't be afraid of it, because you'll use these. So what you do is, we're going to knit cast on, and what that is basically doing a knit stitch, but not dropping the stitch and just putting it back on. So what we're going to do is, we're going to grow this one stitch and knit, and then turn it and hook the yarn back in. Ready? So we're going to take the yarn, stick it in here, put it through, and turn it and stick it back in. I'm going to do 5 like the crochet. So this is a knit cast on. It can go very fast. There's multiple ways of doing cast on. I will be showing more videos. I just want to show you this one. And if you make it too tight, you want to push it all the way in. Knit cast on. And so that's 5, right? We have 5 stitches. All right. You can keep practicing. Add more and more and more depending on how wide you want to go. And with knitting, you want to be careful, because even though this looks like a very tiny, tiny little thing to cast on, when you actually knit, it like grows. It almost doubles or triples in the size once you do it. So this is why people say gauge on your knit stitches. You know, definitely gauge is more important in knitting than in crochet, but gauge is really important altogether. But I'm not the best practicer of that. But I also make a lot of mistakes because I don't gauge. So I'm constantly always undoing my work. So if you take the time ahead of time, do the gauging first. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just for the sake of this tutorial. So what you do is, so now we're going to start the actual order. So like the actual row. So this is your cast on row. So now we're going to knit. Ready? And this is all that knitting is. Oh, what I want to show you is how I wrap my yarn. I wrap it once around my pinky, and then see how I go like this? This is just my way of controlling this yarn. Wrap it however way you're comfortable with. Wrap it however way that makes it easier for you. And everybody is different, so do what makes you comfortable. So you stick the needle in the front, wrap the yarn around, and then pull it up and drop that stitch, or release that stitch. So there, it's going from one needle to the next needle. That's all knitting is transferring one needle to the next needle. So knit is stick the needle in, wrap the yarn around, pull it up, stick the needle in, wrap the yarn around, pull it up. And this is it. This is knit, guys. This is the basic knitting stitch, the basic. Now, this is not the technical way to weave in ends, but this is how I do it because I hate weaving in ends. So what I do is I just take that end and I wrap it around there. Just give it a couple of twists. Don't go crazy. So we're going to knit again. If you knit every row, so of course what's more important is, see how I just kind of wrap both of them in as one? It is a little thick, you know what I mean? Because it's obviously double a strand. But as you continue to go further and further, that first row, it doesn't become, like this knit doesn't become an issue. Now, mind you, you can cut it off at this point because it's already in several rows. So this is just the knit. Stick it in, pull it up into it, right? And I just want to show you what I do is, so now I'm coming to the end. And you can cut it off at any which point, but I just kind of like to go all the way through. And then when my piece is all done, I just eventually like spread it out. Do you see how fat that got? Remember we started off right here to cast on and all of a sudden like, it exploded and got this big? Sorry, I meant to hit pause and I think I ended up stopping the video, so we're just going to continue right on and I'll just mend the videos together. So that was 1 row of 2 rows of knit. I'm going to do another row of knit so you can practice. This is how you practice knitting. Just keep knitting each row, and when you knit every single row, it's called the garter stitch. So that is the most basic knitting you can do, is just keep knitting back and forth, knit back and forth. And when you do that on every single row, it's called the garter stitch, and it gives you this nice bumpy like row, like straight. See how this gives you the straight lines, and it looks really, it's really cute. I've made billions of scarves with just the garter stitch, and what's really good about this basic knit garter stitch is it's very flat and very structured, so there's no curling involved. So people like to do a garter stitch at the end of their knits so that it doesn't curl inside. Let me grab a knitting piece I have. Here's a current project, right? See, this is my rib scarf that I'm doing. This cabling stitch I'll show in a later tutorial, and the ribbing I'll show in a later tutorial. But see how at the edge I use a garter stitch? I use that garter stitch there. That's because see how the pattern like tends to curl and fold in on itself, but the garter stitch keeps it nice and flat, you know? So that's why I love garter stitches, and garter stitches make great edging to keep your patterns and to keep your items flat like that. So that's a good way to learn, and all it is just a bunch of knits, right? So on to the next one, which is the opposite of knit. And the opposite of knit is purl. So if knitting goes into the front, what purling does is it comes and brings it to the back. So you're going from the back. So knitting goes from front to back. Purling is going from back to front. And that's it. Ready? So we're going to put the yarn in the front. We're going to take the needle and stick it from behind, and then wrap the yarn around and put it back. You ready? Take the needle, come from behind, wrap the yarn around, and put it back. A lot of people get like intimidated with this purl, like newbies get intimidated with this purl, but it's really, it's not. If you just think of the concept, you either have a choice of going from front to back, which is knit, or go from back to front, which is purl. And that's it. That's it, guys. You master these two and you're on your way. You can make a billion knitting projects just knowing these 2 stitches. Right? So see how that's the knit stitch? If you go knit on knit, so I'm just going to do a row of knit. So that's usually, you know, like if you see patterns, you'll see knit the front and purl the back. See how it's nice and flat? If you just keep knitting, if all your fronts was all knit, you get that nice flat knit stitch. And then the purls are in the back, which means you get, so stick it in the back to the front. and put it back. So if you purl the back, you get a bunch of bumpy rows, but not the same kind of bump as garter. You see how like thin the knit, see how the knit and the purl, it looks like the same bump, but the purl stitch is a lot fatter. Mind you, this is also fatter because I have that weave in ends, but see, but it's actually, the purl stitch is, see, this is knit, so it's like a lot cleaner, but if you do like a purl on purl on purl, you don't get that space. So what you do is you get this clean knit and then purl. But when you do this enough, this fabric curls. If you know what I mean? This, if you don't put an edging here, this is going to eventually curl. The reason why it won't for now is because this part is the garter stitch. And remember I told you garter stitch makes it stiff. It stiffens the fabric. It gives it structure, you know. But if you didn't, see how this part would curl? It would just have this tendency to curl. So that's basically it. So this is what happens sometimes when you want to add texture to the front. You know, so this is all the knit side. Say you want to do a purl in the front, you're going to get that nice, so back to the front, put it back. This is purl. And you throw your yarn around. Now, the purpose of me doing these tutorials is just to show you all the different stitches so you can just practice with it, you know what I mean? And just do a plain scarf, do a couple of rows, do whatever, and you just get all these different techniques. So if you purl for 2 rows, so now look at the purl. Look at what the purl did on the knit side. The purl gives you the bump, and now the knit side, you're going to end up getting, see how it turns into the knit? And that's all this, that's it. That's it, guys. Knitting is practicing knits or purls. And this bumpy garter stitch is all knits. So you don't even have to learn how to purl. But, so, and here's the final lesson. So, how you cast off. There are various ways to cast off, but I'm going to show you the easiest way to cast off. And that is to, like you're going to knit, so just knit, right? So you knit one, and then on your second one, you knit, you remove it, and then you take this yarn and you pass it over. So you bring that yarn over. So now you're down to 1. You start off with 2, you're down to 1. So you knit again. This is casting off. This is how you end a project. So you knit, so you have 2 again, and you grab that yarn and you bring it over, and then that closes it up, see? And now you're back down to 1. Knit, pass the yarn over, bring the yarn over. There you go. You're back down to 1. Knit, loop the yarn over, and you're down to 1. And you see how you've gotten your edge? And there's your cast off. And like crochet, you take that 1 loop back, insert it over, grab your scissors, cut, and that seals it right off, and that's it. And then just weaving in your ends. There's various ways depending on what kind of stitch you have. You can stick, you know what I mean, like go in and out, up and down to try to weave it in on a flatter one. For knit stitches, you can go like follow the loop and take the knit, you know what I mean, and bury it in that way. And that's how people cast off, hide their ends. But another way I just do is simple, like I do with crochet. I just stick it in these loops at the edge here, you know, and straighten it out. You always want to see how it's like that curling part. You just want to straighten it out. Look at all the possibilities you can have. So the difference between knit and crochet is knitting tends to have a softer stitch, have a more pliable stitch, as opposed to crochet can give you like a lot of structure and firmness, you know. But you can get like loose and lacy with crochet, and you can also get stiff and tough with knit too. But the two crafts like love each other, and that's why I do both crafts. And I highly encourage everybody else to do it too. And there you go. And there's this is your beginner knitting class for mastery. All right, hopefully you enjoy it. Leave in the comments if you have any questions. And definitely if you are a monthly patron, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Even if you're just a regular patron, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe. Be sure to hit the likes and leave a comment if you have any questions. And if you're a monthly patron, make a post and ask me any questions if you have any questions on this, or just comment right inside this video and let me know if you have any questions, and I will be happy to help you further along on this awesome craft. Because once I'm a crochet master, but once I added knitting into my bag of tricks, like, the world has opened up. And now that I've learned to cable, like, the possibilities are literally endless after this, you know. So I can't wait for you guys to expand your craft and join me if you're a patron in me expanding my craft. All right, God bless. Bye.